number one, just every year that we come here, I think Montgomery does a better job. So thank you to the town. I know we're not going to be here very long, but over the years that we've been here, there's been continuous improvements to really every situation of the tournament, and it just keeps getting better and better every year. So hats off to the people that put on a good tournament for guys that work really hard to get here. Same thing to the Sun Belt. I feel like it takes a step up every year. And I just think, to our fan base, I haven't looked at the exact specifics, but our home attendance was outstanding this year. The people that supported us throughout the entire year, when we just dealt with a lot this year. I'll say we dealt with more than anybody else or less than anybody else or anything, but we dealt with a lot this year, and there was never one time that our fan base wavered. And for that matter, our guys, a lot of guys in that bus right now, they're brokenhearted and played through a lot of pain, injury, a lot of different things, and just really proud to be their coach. But to our fan base, thank you for supporting us. To our team, thank you for playing as hard as you did for as long as you did.
You talk about the way in which this team battled and fought through adversity, and it comes down to the final game of the regular season to get in. What did you see from your team in that game on Sunday leading into this, or Saturday leading into this tournament that showed you what you'd seen all year?
Yeah, I think it probably goes farther back than that. One of the things we talked about at the end of our game on the Saturday game you're referencing is, you saw a lot of Luke Drumheller and Braxton Church. You saw a lot of Hayden Cross and Caleb Cross. You saw a lot of guys that have invested a lot in this program, really like being present on the field through other people. And I think that when your leadership and your culture or your grit or your tenacity, your toughness, when that's passed down from class to class to class, you come to expect it. Like Saturday, we came to expect it. I mean, today, 4 of our last 6 outs were 100 plus. Like we didn't stop today either. We just got beat, and I hope that we showed that all year. I really do. And there's times that you have a period of time where you're not playing very well, but there's never a time that we didn't play hard. There was never a time that we didn't compete. There was never a time that we didn't make an adjustment. So I think that showed up a lot, and it shows up a lot really on a daily basis in our lifts and in our practices and in our travel, and that the care for each other, that's not fake. When people genuinely care for one another, it's a special trait that's I think been fostered for a long period of time by a lot of good players.
Liam Best, a career high in innings today. He gets out of a jam in the second and then goes on a stretch where he retired 8 in a row. Just how have you seen him evolve throughout the entire season to go from a guy who started in the back end of the bullpen to a guy that gave you the kind of outing he did today?
Yeah, I think what a lot of people don't know about Liam is he's 14 months off surgery. So even going into the start of the season, he was a guy that was 10 or 11 months throwing his first pitch for us of the season. So obviously there's a lot of factors that go into that when you're coming up on a year of surgery, a month into the season. We wanted to be careful with him. We think he's got a long career in baseball, not just at App, but in professional baseball. So I think it was one of those things where you're balancing his health and his career, and how he can help our baseball program. But it took that turn there. I think we were down at ULM. We finished the weekend. We won 2 out of 3, and he doesn't throw. So you're kind of sitting there like, wow, he's got to throw. So to keep him at the back end of the bullpen, we were kind of a team that was building like the beginning of the game, like that was our momentum. And if we could go get a guy out there that could throw up a 0 at the front end of the game, I thought we had a chance to win. And went out and got that first midweek start, and then it just kind of took on from there. And I don't know what reference you're asking me. It's not surprising. It's awesome, but just for him to be that patient, because he's a real competitor, right? And there's game 1 of the season, he probably wants to throw 110 pitches, but we know that that's not best for the longevity of him, whether it's this season or the rest of his baseball career. But yeah, I'm really proud of him. He's another one of those guys that he's been here for 10 months, and I think that he's invested a lot. He bleeds it, and just really proud to be his coach.
I think it's really easy to have the season end and to think of the seniors and the upperclassmen, but this is a team with a lot of young talent. You just had 3 guys on Monday named all conference that are all underclassmen. How excited are you for what the future will bring for you and your team?
Very, but I don't want to miss the fact on this, and you're not by asking the question. I don't want to miss like what's been passed down to those guys, because that very reference point of Saturday, that game on Saturday for us to make the tournament, it meant as much to Braxton Church as it did to Riley Luft, right? It meant as much to Bradley Wilson as it did to Tyler Lichtenberger. So when that transcends, and that care and that feel and that love transcends a senior to a freshman class. That's everything, right? Now what you're asking, the reference point of the ability level, and I'm super excited about that. You kind of go into looking at a lineup that could return and adding a couple of pieces, and competing in the weight room over the summer and the next fall, and coming out here next year and being having a chance to be a really, really good baseball team with a lot of guys that know what it feels like, right? Like this day can be a reference point. It can be a calling card for an entire season, and knowing that we don't want to feel this way again.
And then, Coach, just one for me. Baseball is such a game in the margins. A lot of hard hit balls, a lot of good defense on both sides. What do you think that calling card looks like in reference to this game, as far as effort and energy for your team moving forward?
Yeah, I think the calling card will hopefully for every team that I ever coach will always be toughness. It's just that we don't leave here and make an excuse. We don't leave here and say Correa's 111 through the 4-hole. Like if that gets through, or if the last ball to Riley Luft goes 97 to right center, if if we don't get doubled off in the second, all those ifs, because you're in a 3-0 game, 2-0 game at the time, and everything is magnified, right? So every strike call, every ball call, but I thought their guy did a really good job on the mound today, and our calling card, and what I hope will be never complaining, never making excuses, and will always be toughness.